I never thought a cat could destroy my entire world in 30 seconds. It was Tuesday afternoon, and I had just gotten home from my shift at the hospital. My feet were killing me after 12 hours of running between patient rooms, and all I wanted was to collapse on the couch with a cup of tea. The house was quiet. Trevor wouldn't be home from his accounting firm for another hour, which meant I had some precious time to myself. That's when Muffin decided to lose his mind. Our gray and white cat had found his favorite toy mouse somewhere under the kitchen table and was in full hunting mode. You know how cats get when they're really excited. That crazy look in their eyes like they've forgotten they're domesticated. Muffin was racing through the living room, batting the mouse around like his life depended on it. I was laughing, actually laughing, watching him slide across the hardwood floor when he made a sharp turn toward our bedroom. The little furry tornado shot through the doorway and launched himself at the mouse, which had somehow ended up near Trevor's side of the bed. That's when everything went wrong. Muffin crashed into Trevor's nightstand with a loud thud that made me wince. The whole piece of furniture rocked back and forth, and I heard something inside rattling around. Then came the sound that still makes my stomach drop, the sharp crack of wood splitting. "Oh no, Muffin!" I rushed into the bedroom, expecting to find a broken lamp or maybe some scattered papers. Trevor was always so careful about his things, especially his work stuff. He kept that nightstand drawer locked tight, said it was where he stored important client documents that needed to stay confidential. But when I got to the bedroom, my heart stopped. The drawer had completely broken open. The lock was still attached to a piece of splintered wood, but the rest of the drawer had crashed to the floor, spilling everything across our bedroom carpet. And what I saw scattered there made no sense at all. Driver's licenses, multiple driver's licenses, all with Trevor's face but different names: Robert Chen, Michael Torres, David Kim. I picked one up with shaking hands, staring at my husband's familiar smile under a name I'd never heard before. There were credit cards too. Dozens of them. All in these strange names, all with Trevor's signature on the back. Bank statements showing accounts with numbers that made my head spin. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in accounts I didn't even know existed. But it was the death certificates that made my legs give out. I sank to my knees on the carpet, holding papers that showed elderly people I'd never heard of. Margaret Wong, age 78, Carlos Mendez, age 82, Helen Park, age 85, all dead. All with Trevor listed as their financial advisor. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely read the dates. These people had died over the past 2 years. While I was working double shifts at the hospital, exhausting myself because Trevor said we needed the money while I was clipping coupons and buying generic groceries, because he said we had to be careful with our budget. There were more papers. So many more. Social security cards in different names, birth certificates, even what looked like apartment leases for addresses I'd never seen before. I felt like I was drowning. This was Trevor's nightstand, Trevor's locked drawer, Trevor's secrets. The man I'd been married to for 4 years. The man I shared a bed with every night. The man I trusted with everything. Who was he? Muffin meowed softly from somewhere behind me, probably confused about why I was sitting on the floor surrounded by papers. I wanted to scream at him, to blame him for destroying my perfect little world. But deep down, I knew this wasn't his fault. This was something much bigger, something much worse. I started gathering the papers with trembling hands, trying to put everything back exactly how it was. Maybe I could fix the drawer somehow. Maybe I could pretend this never happened. That's when I heard it. The familiar sound of Trevor's car pulling into our driveway. He was home early. I met Trevor on the worst day of my financial life. It was 3 years before we got married, and I was sitting in a coffee shop near the hospital, staring at a stack of bills that might as well have been my death sentence. Student loans, credit card debt, rent. The numbers swam together on the pages until I felt sick. I'd just finished nursing school, but my new job at the hospital barely covered my basic expenses, let alone the mountain of debt I'd accumulated. I remember feeling so hopeless that day. 26 years old and already drowning. My parents had helped as much as they could, but they weren't wealthy people. Dad worked construction, Mom cleaned houses. They'd already sacrificed so much just to help me get through school. That's when Trevor appeared at my table like some kind of guardian angel. "Excuse me?" he said, his voice gentle and concerned. "I don't mean to intrude, but you look like you're having a really tough day." I looked up to find this kind-faced man in a crisp button-down shirt, holding a coffee and wearing the most genuine smile I'd seen in months. He had warm brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and something about him just felt safe. "I'm sorry," I said, quickly shuffling my bills into a pile. "I didn't mean to take up the whole table." No, he said, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. "Mind if I sit? I'm Trevor, by the way. I work at the accounting firm down the street." An accountant. Of course. Maybe that's why he'd noticed my financial paperwork spread across the table like evidence of my failure. We talked for 2 hours that day. Trevor was so easy to open up to. He listened without judgment as I explained my situation, how I'd worked so hard to become a nurse, how I wanted to help people, but how the debt was crushing me before I'd even really started my career. "You know," he said, stirring his coffee thoughtfully, "I help people with financial planning all the time. It's what I do for a living. Would you mind if I took a look at your situation? Maybe I could help you figure out a better payment plan." I should have been embarrassed, letting a stranger see my financial mess. But Trevor made it feel normal, professional even. He pulled out a small notebook and started writing down numbers, asking questions about interest rates and minimum payments. "Olivia," he said after a few minutes, "this isn't as bad as you think. You're actually in better shape than a lot of people I work with. You just need someone to help you organize everything." For the first time in months, I felt hope. We started meeting regularly after that. Trevor would help me budget, negotiate with creditors, and plan my payments. He never asked for anything in return, said he enjoyed helping people, that it was good practice for his work with clients. "You're going to be an amazing nurse," he told me one evening as we worked through my monthly expenses. "You care so much about helping people, that's rare." I fell for him gradually, then all at once. He was everything I thought I needed: stable, responsible, caring. When he asked me out officially, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. After we got married, Trevor insisted on handling all our finances. "You work such long hours at the hospital," he said. "Let me take care of the money stuff. It's what I'm good at." It seemed perfect. I could focus on my patients, on the job I loved, while Trevor managed our budget and bills. He set up automatic payments for everything, handled our taxes, even managed my student loan payments. But somehow, we were always struggling. "The economy's tough right now," Trevor would explain when I asked why we couldn't afford to go out to dinner or take a vacation. "My clients are cutting back, which means less commission for me. And your student loans are higher than we thought." I believed him completely. Why wouldn't I? He was the financial expert. When he suggested I pick up extra shifts at the hospital, I did it without question. When he said we needed to shop at discount stores and clip coupons, I threw myself into saving money. I worked 60-hour weeks, came home exhausted, and handed every paycheck over to Trevor. He managed everything: our checking account, savings, credit cards. I didn't even have access to our online banking. Trevor said it was easier if one person handled everything, less confusing. "We're building toward our future," he'd say, kissing my forehead as I collapsed into bed after another double shift. "All this hard work will pay off eventually." I trusted him with everything: my money, my future, my heart. Trevor was my rock, my financial savior, the man who'd rescued me from drowning in debt. Looking back now, I realize I was still drowning. I just didn't know Trevor was the one holding me underwater. Trevor's office was everything you'd want from someone handling your life savings: warm, professional, and filled with family photos that made him look trustworthy. I'd only been there a few times, usually to drop off lunch when he was working late, but I always noticed how his elderly clients looked at him. They adored him. Mrs. Patterson, who had to be in her 80s, would light up whenever Trevor walked into the waiting area. "There's my boy," she'd say, reaching for his hands like he was her own grandson. "I don't know what I'd do without you, dear." Trevor had a gift with older people. He spoke slowly and clearly, never seemed rushed, and always remembered personal details about their lives. He'd ask about their grandchildren, their health, their hobbies. I watched him help Mrs. Patterson to her car once, his arm steady under hers, making sure she was safely buckled in before waving goodbye. "She's like family to me," he told me that evening. "A lot of my clients don't have anyone else. Their kids live across the country, or they've passed away. I'm the only person they see regularly." It made sense that Trevor specialized in elder care financial planning. He had the patience for it, the gentle manner that put nervous seniors at ease. His boss, Mr. Franklin, always praised Trevor's work with their older clients. "Trevor's got a waiting list," Mr. Franklin told me at the company Christmas party. "Word gets around in the senior community. They all want him as their advisor." Trevor's typical day started early. He'd visit clients at their homes before coming into the office, especially the ones who had trouble getting around. I'd see him loading his briefcase with documents, sometimes carrying grocery bags. "Mrs. Chen asked me to pick up a few things for her," he'd explain. "Her arthritis is acting up again and she can't drive to the store." He went above and beyond for his clients in ways that amazed me. Trevor helped them set up their pill organizers, drove them to doctor appointments when their families couldn't, even helped some of them learn to use computers so they could video call their grandchildren. "Mr. Rodriguez wants to email his daughter in California," Trevor told me one evening. "I'm going to teach him how to use that tablet his son bought him. He's been too embarrassed to ask anyone else for help." The elderly clients trusted Trevor with everything. He had power of attorney for several of them, helped manage their daily expenses, and handled their estate planning. Many of them had made him their emergency contact since their families lived so far away. "It's a big responsibility," Trevor would say. "These people depend on me. Some of them, I'm the only person they talk to all week." I was proud of him. In a world where so many people took advantage of the elderly, Trevor was protecting them. He made sure they weren't being scammed, helped them understand their Medicare benefits, and ensured their money would last through their retirement years. His clients showed their appreciation in touching ways. Mrs. Wong brought him homemade cookies every month. Mr. Martinez insisted on paying for Trevor's lunch whenever they met at restaurants to discuss his finances. Mrs. Kim knitted him scarves and sweaters, treating him like the son she'd lost in the war. "They're so grateful," Trevor would tell me, showing me thank you cards and small gifts. "Mrs. Patterson gave me her late husband's watch. She said she wanted someone who cared about her to have it." Trevor kept detailed files on all his clients, not just their financial information, but personal details too. He knew Mrs. Chen's favorite tea, remembered that Mr. Rodriguez's birthday was coming up, and always asked Mrs. Wong about her garden. "You have to understand their whole lives," he explained when I asked about his methods. "Money isn't just numbers to elderly people. It represents their independence, their security, their ability to stay in their own homes. If I don't understand what matters to them, I can't help them properly." He worked long hours, often staying late to review estate documents or prepare for client meetings. Sometimes he'd get calls at home from worried clients who couldn't sleep, anxious about their finances or confused about their medications. "Mrs. Patterson called," he'd say, hanging up the phone. "She forgot whether she took her blood pressure medicine today. I'm going to stop by and check on her." Trevor's dedication to his elderly clients was one of the things I loved most about him. In a society that often ignored or dismissed older people, he treated them with respect and genuine care. He was their advocate, their protector, their trusted friend. His clients felt safe with Trevor. They knew he would never take advantage of them, never steal from them, never hurt them. They trusted him completely, just like I did. I waited until Trevor left for work the next morning before I dared to look at those papers again. My hands were still shaking as I spread everything across our kitchen table, trying to make sense of what I'd found. In the daylight, with my morning coffee growing cold beside me, the evidence looked even more impossible to explain away. Robert Chen. I stared at the driver's license with Trevor's face and this unfamiliar name. The address listed was for an apartment complex across town, a place I'd never been, never even heard Trevor mention. According to the license, Robert Chen was 34 years old, 1 year older than Trevor's real age. The Michael Torres license showed a different apartment, different neighborhood. David Kim had yet another address. 3 separate identities, 3 separate lives, all with my husband's face smiling back at me. I opened my laptop and started searching. Robert Chen had a credit history going back 3 years. Bank accounts, utility bills, even a gym membership. This wasn't just a fake ID. This was a complete identity with a paper trail. My stomach twisted as I dug deeper. Robert Chen worked as a financial advisor, specializing in helping elderly Chinese American clients. His business cards were scattered among the papers, printed in both English and Chinese characters. Michael Torres had similar credentials, but his specialty was serving the Hispanic community. His business cards were in Spanish and English. David Kim's materials were in Korean and English. Trevor had created 3 different versions of himself to target elderly people from different ethnic communities. I found client lists under each name: Mrs. Wong, Mrs. Chen, Mrs. Liu, all listed under Robert Chen's files. Mr. Martinez, Mrs. Gonzalez, Mr. Herrera, under Michael Torres. The Kim family, Mr. Park, Mrs. Choi, all David Kim's clients. But these weren't just client lists. They were detailed profiles. Mrs. Wong, age 79, widowed, no children, estimated assets $340,000. Lives alone, has diabetes, takes multiple medications. Emergency contact, Robert Chen. Mr. Martinez, age 83, wife deceased. 1 son in Texas who visits twice a year. Assets approximately $280,000. Trusts Michael Torres completely, has given him power of attorney. The profiles went on and on. Each elderly person's life reduced to numbers and vulnerabilities. Their health conditions, their family situations, their loneliness, all documented like Trevor was studying them. Then I found the bank statements. Robert Chen had $180,000 in his checking account. Michael Torres had $220,000. David Kim had $340,000. Nearly $750,000 spread across accounts I'd never known existed. While I was working myself to exhaustion, picking up extra shifts because Trevor said we were struggling financially, he had been sitting on more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I felt sick. Actually, physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up my coffee, my whole body shaking with the realization of what this meant. Trevor had been lying to me about everything. Our financial struggles, our need to save money, my exhausting work schedule, all of it was fake. He had been living a completely different life while making me believe we were barely getting by. But where had all this money come from? I went back to the papers with new eyes, looking for answers. That's when I found the death certificates again, and this time I read them more carefully. Margaret Wong, deceased 6 months ago. According to the paperwork, she had left her entire estate to Robert Chen. $180,000, almost exactly the amount in Robert Chen's bank account. Carlos Mendez, deceased 8 months ago. Estate left to Michael Torres, $220,000. Helen Park, deceased 4 months ago. Everything left to David Kim, $340,000. The pattern was horrifying and clear. Trevor's fake identities weren't just getting money from these elderly clients. They were inheriting everything when the clients died. I grabbed my phone and started searching for obituaries. Margaret Wong, beloved member of the Chinese American community, died peacefully at home. Carlos Mendez, devoted father and grandfather, passed away after a brief illness. Helen Park, active in her Korean church until the end, died suddenly but peacefully. All of them had died alone. All of them had left their money to their trusted financial advisor. All of them had died within the past year. My mind raced back to all those evenings when Trevor came home talking about his elderly clients, how Mrs. Patterson was feeling under the weather, How Mr. Rodriguez seemed confused lately. How Mrs. Chen was having trouble with her medications. Trevor wasn't just stealing from these people. He was waiting for them to die. Or maybe he wasn't just waiting. I thought about all those times he'd brought clients groceries, helped them with their medications, made them special meals when they weren't feeling well. What if Trevor wasn't the caring, devoted financial advisor I thought he was? What if he was something much, much worse? Amy showed up at my door unannounced that afternoon, the way she always did when she sensed something was wrong. My little sister had this annoying ability to read me like a book, even when I tried to hide things from her. "You look terrible," she said, pushing past me into the living room. "What's going on?" I'd been sitting at the kitchen table for hours, staring at those papers, trying to convince myself there was some innocent explanation. Maybe Trevor was helping these elderly clients with some kind of complex financial planning. Maybe the multiple identities were for legitimate business reasons I didn't understand. But Amy took one look at my face and knew something was seriously wrong. "Olivia, you're scaring me. What happened?" I couldn't keep it inside anymore. The words came pouring out. Muffin breaking the drawer, the fake identities, the bank accounts, the death certificates. Amy listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious with every detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Show me everything," she said finally. Amy worked at First National Bank in their fraud prevention department. She'd seen financial crimes before, but as I spread Trevor's papers across the table, I watched her face go pale. "Olivia," she said, picking up one of the bank statements. "This is elder financial abuse. Textbook case." She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of everything. "These aren't legitimate business accounts. Look at the transaction patterns." Amy pointed to the bank statements, showing me things I'd missed. "See these deposits? They're always right after large withdrawals from other accounts, and look at the timing. They correspond exactly with the dates on these death certificates." My stomach dropped as she continued her analysis. "Your husband has been systematically stealing from elderly clients, then inheriting their money when they die. But Olivia," she looked up at me with fear in her eyes, "some of these people died really close together. That's not normal." Amy started cross-referencing the death certificates with the financial records on her phone. Margaret Wong changed her will to benefit Robert Chen just 2 weeks before she died. Carlos Mendez updated his beneficiaries 1 month before his death. This isn't coincidence. "What are you saying?" I asked, even though part of me already knew. "I'm saying these people might not have died naturally." Amy's voice was barely a whisper. "Olivia, I think Trevor might be killing them." The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to process what my sister was telling me. "We need to call the police," Amy said, but I shook my head frantically. "We can't. Not yet. What if we're wrong? What if there's an explanation?" Amy gave me a look that said she thought I was being naive, but she didn't argue. Instead, she pulled out her laptop. "Fine. But we're going to investigate this properly. I have access to financial databases through work. Let me see what else I can find." For the next 2 hours, Amy dug through records while I paced around the kitchen. What she found made everything worse. "Olivia, Trevor's been doing this for years. I found records going back 5 years, maybe longer. Different names, different identities, but the same pattern every time." She showed me her screen. "Look at this. In 2019, someone named Thomas Liu inherited $150,000 from an elderly client who died suddenly. In 2020, James Rodriguez got $200,000 from another suspicious death. The names change, but the bank routing numbers trace back to accounts Trevor controls." "How much money are we talking about?" I asked. Amy was quiet for a moment, adding numbers on her calculator. "Based on what I can find, at least $2 million over the past 5 years. Probably more. $2 million. While I was working myself to death thinking we were poor, Trevor had stolen $2 million from elderly people who trusted him. There's something else, Amy said, her voice grim. I looked up some of these clients who are still alive. Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Rodriguez, Mrs. Chen. They're all showing signs of cognitive decline in their recent medical records. Confusion, memory problems, sudden health issues. What does that mean? It means Trevor might be poisoning them slowly, making them sick and confused so they'll depend on him more, trust him with their finances, change their wills. Amy closed her laptop and looked at me seriously. Olivia, your husband isn't just a thief. He's a serial killer. I sank into a chair, my whole world crashing down around me. The man I'd been married to for 4 years, the man I'd trusted with everything, was a monster. We have to stop him, Amy said. How many elderly clients does he have right now? I thought about all the names I'd heard over the years, all the sweet old people Trevor talked about helping. At least a dozen, I whispered. Amy grabbed my hands. Then we need to move fast, because if we're right about this, some of those people might not have much time left. Amy and I spent the rest of the evening planning our approach. We couldn't go to the police yet, not without more concrete evidence. But we could talk to Trevor's current clients, the ones who were still alive. We need to be careful, Amy warned. If Trevor finds out we're investigating him, he might panic, and panicked killers do desperate things. The next morning, while Trevor was at work, we drove to Mrs. Patterson's house. I'd been there once before with Trevor, so I knew where she lived. Amy had suggested we pose as volunteers from a community wellness program checking on elderly residents. Mrs. Patterson answered the door slowly, using a walker I didn't remember her needing before. She looked frailer than when I'd last seen her skin pale and her hands shaking slightly. "Oh, hello, dear," she said, recognizing me. "You're Trevor's wife, aren't you? Such a sweet boy. Come in, come in." Her house smelled like medicine and something else, something chemical I couldn't identify. Mrs. Patterson moved carefully, like every step hurt. "How have you been feeling lately, Mrs. Patterson?" Amy asked gently. "Oh, not so good, I'm afraid." Mrs. Patterson settled into her recliner with obvious relief. "I've been having the strangest symptoms. Dizzy spells, nausea, trouble thinking clearly. My doctor can't figure out what's wrong." "When did these symptoms start?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "About 3 months ago, I think. Right around the time Trevor started bringing me those wonderful vitamins." She pointed to a bottle on her side table. "He's so thoughtful. Says they'll help with my energy levels." Amy and I exchanged glances. "Trevor brings you vitamins?" "Oh yes, every week when he comes to check on my finances. Special ones from his doctor friend. They taste awful, but Trevor says they're very expensive and good for me." Mrs. Patterson smiled fondly. "He's like the grandson I never had." My heart was pounding. "Mrs. Patterson, have you made any changes to your will recently?" "Well, yes, actually. Trevor helped me update everything last month. I don't have any family left, and Trevor has been so good to me. I want to make sure he's taken care of when I'm gone." Amy leaned forward. "What kind of changes did you make?" "I left everything to Trevor, my house, my savings, everything. He tried to talk me out of it, said it was too much, but I insisted. He deserves it for all the care he's given me." We stayed for another 20 minutes, listening to Mrs. Patterson describe her worsening health and Trevor's increasing involvement in her daily life. He was now managing all her medications, bringing her groceries, and had even convinced her to give him power of attorney just in case something happens. Our next stop was Mr. Rodriguez. He lived in a small apartment complex across town, and when he answered the door, I was shocked by his appearance. The last time Trevor had mentioned him, Mr. Rodriguez was active and independent. Now he looked confused and unsteady. "I'm sorry," he said, squinting at us. "Do I know you?" We explained about the wellness check, and he invited us in reluctantly. His apartment was cluttered with pill bottles and medical equipment I was sure hadn't been there before. "I've been so sick lately," Mr. Rodriguez told us, sinking into a chair. "Can't remember things, can't keep food down. My financial advisor, Michael, he's been helping me with everything." Michael. Trevor's fake identity for Hispanic clients. "Tell us about Michael," Amy said. "Such a good man. He comes by twice a week now, helps me with my pills, brings me special soup when I'm feeling bad." Mr. Rodriguez gestured weakly toward the kitchen. "He made me some yesterday. It's in the refrigerator if you want to try it." Amy got up to look, and I saw her face change when she opened the refrigerator. She came back and sat down, her expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Rodriguez, has Michael helped you with any legal documents recently?" "Oh yes, he's been so helpful. Updated my will, set up some kind of trust. I don't understand all the legal stuff, but Michael explains everything so patiently." He rubbed his forehead. "Though I have trouble remembering our conversations lately. This brain fog is terrible." We visited 3 more clients that day. Mrs. Chen, who was being helped by Robert. Mrs. Kim, who trusted David with everything. Mr. Martinez, who couldn't stop praising Michael's kindness. Every single one of them was sick. Every single one had recently changed their will to benefit Trevor under one of his fake identities. Every single one was taking special vitamins or eating special food that Trevor provided. By the time we got back to my house, Amy was furious. "He's poisoning them," she said, pacing around my living room. "Slowly, systematically poisoning them while stealing their money and making them dependent on him." "What was in Mr. Rodriguez's refrigerator?" I asked. Amy pulled out a small container she'd taken from his kitchen. "Soup that smells like almonds. I think it might contain arsenic or some other slow-acting poison." I stared at the container, thinking about all the times Trevor had come home talking about making special meals for his clients, about how much they appreciated his care. "We have to call the police now," Amy said. "These people are dying, Olivia, and Trevor is going to kill them all." Detective Walsh arrived at our house within an hour of Amy's call. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who listened to our story without interruption, taking notes as we laid out all the evidence we'd gathered. "This is extensive," she said, photographing Trevor's fake documents. "We'll need to test that soup sample and get medical records for all these clients. But based on what you've shown me, we have enough for a warrant." The plan was simple, but terrifying. I would act normal when Trevor came home, while police positioned themselves around our house. Detective Walsh would be waiting in our living room when Trevor walked through the door. At 6:30, I heard Trevor's car in the driveway. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Amy squeezed my hand from her position on the couch next to Detective Walsh. "Remember," Detective Walsh whispered. "Let me do the talking." Trevor walked through the front door with his usual smile, loosening his tie. "Hey, honey, how was your day?" Then he noticed Amy and the detective, and his expression shifted slightly. "Trevor Morrison?" Detective Walsh stood up, showing her badge. "I'm Detective Walsh with the Financial Crimes Unit. We need to ask you some questions." For just a moment, Trevor's mask slipped. I saw something cold and calculating flash across his face before he recovered his composure. "Of course, officer. Is everything all right? Has something happened to one of my clients?" "You could say that." Detective Walsh gestured for him to sit down. "We're investigating financial irregularities involving several elderly clients of yours, clients you've been helping under multiple identities." Trevor's smile never wavered. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. Multiple identities?" Detective Walsh spread out the fake driver's licenses on our coffee table. "Robert Chen, Michael Torres, David Kim, all with your photograph." Trevor looked at the documents with what appeared to be genuine confusion. "I've never seen these before. Someone must have stolen my photo and created fake IDs. This is identity theft. I'm the victim here." He was good. Really good. If I hadn't found the evidence myself, I might have believed him. "What about these bank accounts?" Detective Walsh showed him the statements. Nearly $750,000 in accounts tied to these fake identities. I have no idea what those are. Trevor turned to me with hurt in his eyes. Olivia, you know I would never do anything like this. We've been struggling financially for years. That's when Detective Walsh played her trump card. We've tested the soup you gave Mr. Rodriguez. It contains enough arsenic to slowly poison someone over several months. Trevor's facade cracked just slightly. That's impossible. I don't even know anyone named Rodriguez. Funny thing about arsenic, Detective Walsh continued. It causes exactly the symptoms your clients have been experiencing. Confusion, memory loss, nausea, weakness. Makes elderly people very dependent on the person caring for them. This is ridiculous, Trevor said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. I help elderly people manage their finances. I would never hurt anyone. Detective Walsh pulled out her phone and played a recording. It was Mrs. Patterson's voice, weak but clear. Trevor brings me special vitamins every week. They taste awful, but he says they're good for me. Then Mr. Rodriguez. Michael makes me special soup when I'm feeling bad. He's so kind. Then Mrs. Chen. Robert has been helping me with my medications. I don't know what I'd do without him. As the voices of his victims filled our living room, something changed in Trevor's face. The mask of the caring husband and devoted financial advisor finally fell away completely. They were going to die anyway, he said quietly. Old, useless, taking up space and resources. At least this way their money went to someone who could use it properly. I felt like I was going to be sick. This was the man I'd shared a bed with for 4 years, the man I'd trusted with my life. How long have you been doing this? Detective Walsh asked. Trevor shrugged, as if we were discussing the weather. 8 years, maybe 9. Started small, just skimming a little from confused clients. But then I realized how easy it would be to help them along to their natural end. Help them along? I whispered. Trevor looked at me with those same warm brown eyes I'd fallen in love with, but now they were completely cold. You were perfect, Olivia. A nurse. Gave me credibility with the elderly clients and access to medical knowledge about dosages and symptoms. Plus, your work schedule meant you were never around to ask inconvenient questions. You married me to help you kill people? I married you because you were useful. Trevor's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was explaining a business decision. The loving husband act was just part of the cover, made me seem trustworthy and stable. Detective Walsh was already calling for backup as Trevor continued talking, seemingly unable to stop himself now that the truth was out. You have no idea how easy it was. Lonely old people, desperate for someone to care about them. A little kindness, a little poison, and suddenly I'm their heir. As the handcuffs clicked around Trevor's wrists, I realized I had never known my husband at all. The man I'd loved, the man I'd trusted with everything, had never existed. He was a monster who'd used my love to help him murder innocent people. And I'd shared a bed with him for 4 years, never knowing I was sleeping next to a killer.